So Sharks, in front of you, there's a box containing 1 stone.
Okay, so who's in the box?
These are the remains of my grandfather.
Oh. It really is Gramps?
It really is Gramps.
Justin walked into the tank looking for $400,000 for 5% of his business that turns your loved one's ashes into a collection of stones. So I'm just gonna need everybody to buckle up because honestly, this one is too much for so many different reasons, but let's get into it. To start off, they do about 75% of their business B2B, meaning business to business through funeral homes, and the other 25% is direct to consumer through their website. While they were in the tank, the price you pay to have a human turn into stones was $995, and that makes around 40 to 60 stones. The cost to make them through B2B was around $300. I'm saying was not because of death, but because they changed their prices. Put a pin in that though. They also do dogs and cats. Those prices were $595 and $495, but so far the sales have been 95% human. Now for a fun game of profit or not. Starting in 2020, they did $350,000 in sales. Now, do we think this was a profit or a loss?
Did you make any money in 2020?
No.
Yeah, it was a loss to the tune of $300,000. 2021 sales were at $850,000. What do you think? Don't be silly. It's obviously a loss. This time at $800,000. Now for the year they were in, they were on track to do $1.3 million. And once again, we have an expected loss of $800,000.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
He says he's been told they can fix these losses through automation, and I just want to know why they haven't already started this process, because my guy has raised $2.5 million through 55 angel investors. Now we all see why I said buckle up. He says that they are supposedly about 2 years away from reaching a break-even point, but Kevin and Mark don't think that's possible at his current price point, which obviously was true since he's raised all of his prices. Let's get into the Sharks. Back in season 11, Mark invested in a company called Eterniva that turns loved ones' ashes into a diamond, and since that's a direct competition, he has to go out.
I just can't get past the losses
Wait, does she mean...
and the raising that you've done.
Never mind, my bad. Anyway, she's out. Our guest star Gwyneth Paltrow thinks this will do great, but once again says it's just out of her wheelhouse, and the economics of it are hard, so she's out. But Lori and Kevin have been talking, and they're interested, and they offer $400,000 for 20%.
There's 2 areas that I invest in and have for decades. Weddings and death. Recession-proof. People die every day regardless of what the market's doing. That's what I like about death.
And
Because of his other investors, Justin says he can't do 20%, but he can do 7, which we all know is super comparable to 20.
I wouldn't get out of bed for 3.5%. I wouldn't even die for that.
Then Lori starts justifying the 20% by pointing out they're currently losing money, which makes it a super risky investment because it's hard to see when/if they'll get their money back. And for some unknown reason, Barbara decides she likes everything she's heard and during this time decides to come back in. She offers them $400,000 for 10% and the following royalty.
But I'd like a $20 royalty per dead person and per dead animal.
oh my God. Is there a nicer way to say that?
How else could I say
right?
it? I couldn't think of any other.
So,
Per
are you
carton
willing to
of
play
ashes.
with...
The word royalty piques Mr. Wonderful's interest, and he wonders if Justin is willing to do a royalty. Justin says he'd be interested in doing it, but only with the direct-to-consumer side of the business. Lori and Kevin completely disregard this and offer him $400,000 for 10% with an overall $20 royalty. Barbara pipes up and says that her royalty expires when she's paid back, and Lori says that they'll do the same thing. Justin asks if they'd be willing to increase the royalty, but only do it on the direct-to-consumer side of the business because that's where he thinks they'll have the biggest impact. Lori says they do the $400,000 for 10%, and they still want a royalty on both, but they'll make it lower on the B2B side. She offers a $20 royalty for direct-to-consumer and $12.50 for B2B. Then Justin starts trying to counter Barbara, but Lori isn't having it and threatens to go out.
Okay, hold on. Okay.
Gramps is speaking to me. He's saying, Barbie.
No, I've been holding Gramps in my hand the whole time.
What do you think, Gramps?
And he ends up making a deal with Kevin and Lori for $400,000 for 10% with a $20 royalty on the direct-to-consumer side and $12.50 on B2B. That is a mouthful.
I gotta tell you, I like the idea so much. I'm gonna take it to Adele at Eternova and see if she can do the same thing.
Oh, well, isn't that nice of you?
Why wouldn't I? Look, what am I gonna tell an
You guys are
entrepreneur?
brutal. This really is a Shark Tank.
Yeah, they're brutal, right?
Unbelievable.
Final thoughts. I just don't want to talk about this anymore. I am not great with death, and this whole pitch made me so uncomfortable. At one point, me and my partner paused the show for 10 minutes because we were just so uncomfortable. It was after the whole who's in the box moment. I will say I've looked into Eternova and have considered doing something like that for my dog. I think I'm more into that idea, but honestly, that's just personal preference. And as far as the cost stuff, in this category, it's always really expensive. That's just kind of the way it is. I'm not saying if it's right or wrong, it's just a fact.
Really kind of fits with my persona, fashionista. Right? So, you know.
Wears the same suit every single show.
James and Ashley walked into the tank looking for $200,000 for 15% of their travel belt for your suitcase. Here it is. It comes in a bunch of different colors and patterns, and how it works is it has a little loop that goes around the handle of your suitcase. Then you set your extra bag on top of your luggage and buckle it in. It costs them $4.61 to make, and they sell for $40. They started in 2019 with $5,000 in sales, and year to date, they were at $830,000. And I swore I remembered them saying they were profitable, but then I didn't see it in my notes. So I skimmed the episode again, and I'm almost positive they didn't say whether or not they are. They did say something about still being able to grow in regards to their margins and customer acquisition cost, but that's all I got on that. At the moment, they sell these all online direct-to-consumer, and the main reason they're here in the tank is because they want to start moving into retail, such as airport stores. Into the sharks. Gwyneth Paltrow is our guest shark, and both her and Mark say they love what they've been able to build, but both think it's a little out of their wheelhouse, so they go out. Lori apparently has a partner in another business that makes something similar, so she has to go out, but no idea what the other business is. So if you know, let me know in the comments. Barbara says that the best entrepreneurs are ones that come out of hardships and says that she thinks they're past the first hump, which is the hardest in building a business, but James disagrees that the first is the hardest. He talks about how they could just keep stumbling along and have success at some level, but the right partner can make the difference in helping them avoid pitfalls and mistakes, which in turn will help to accelerate the growth of their business. And this convinces Barbara to make them an offer of $200,000, half of that as a line of credit, and the other up front for 33% of the business. Of course, this isn't their dream offer, but we still have Kevin left.
Ay, Chihuahua, caramba.
Exactly.
I've been wanting to say that.
Kevin likes the idea and thinks it's very fashionable, like himself, as seen in the first clip, and offers them $200,000 for 20%, along with a $4 royalty per unit until he's paid back his investment. Then the royalty drops to 50 cents in perpetuity. They then decide to counter just Barbara and ask if she'd be willing to lower her equity to 25%.
Well, let me ask you, would Ashley throw in James as my third husband after you're through?
Take him.
Remember, that's a term.
Ashley, that was fast. Is that a deal, damn it.
And they end up making a deal with Barbara for $200,000, half as credit and half up front, for 25%.
And chances are, based on an age difference, that you might not even have to make good on that deal.
We love Barbara. So I have to give my fiance away, but
it was worth the equity.
It's worth the equity.
Final thoughts, when you Google travel belt for luggage, you find a lot of items similar to this. I have no idea if these are knockoffs from them or who came first, but bottom line is they have competition. I really wish I had more info on the profits because that's always my deciding factor on how I end up feeling about these. But after rewatching it like 4 times, I truly do not think they stated it out. I think the bigger thing with them is their personal stories. James, for example, grew up homeless and ended up going to Harvard Law at 21 and is now a successful attorney. And Ashley is a first-generation American. I tend not to dive into the personal stories during these, but I think with them, their clear drive, motivation, and ambition is part of what got them this deal with Barbara, so it makes it more relevant.
in from the mountains of Vietnam.
Ori and Ethan walked into the tank looking for $500,000 for 5% of their single origin spice company and social enterprise. Do y'all see in my eyes how tired I am of this ask? Here's a sampling of some of their spices, including the spice that started it all for them, the Wild Mountain cumin. Ethan was a chef who ended up leaving that to work for nonprofits. Then while he was working in Afghanistan, he was introduced to the cumin they grow in that area. To start, he was just bringing some home in duffel bags to share with his chef friends, and then everyone loved it, so he felt he needed to find a way to connect these farmers and the people who want these spices. They say what makes their spices better than all the rest is that they cut out a lot of the middlemen, which gives farmers more money in their pockets and consumers fresher spices. Ethan and Ori have been friends for 15 years, and truly, everyone needs an Ori in their lives. Just listen to him hype him up.
And Ethan's being modest. You're talking to one of the foremost experts in spices in the world. Very few people have been to even a fraction of the number of spice farms that he's been to.
Back for some numbers. Most of their spices retail for $9.99 and cost them $2.50 to make. They have around 75 individual spices and sell 85% direct to consumer and 15% is wholesale, split between bulk, restaurants, and grocery. Their lifetime sales are around $12 million, starting in 2017 with $100,000 in sales, and year to date, they're on track to do between $6 and $7 million. They are profitable, but just barely, with their bottom line being around 10%. Into the sharks. We start with Mark, who once again this episode says he loves what they've been able to do, but it's just not a business he knows anything about. He then delivers this line before going out, which just feels so Mark.
To me, ketchup is the ultimate spice.
Next, we have Lori, who thinks it tastes great, but says the space is just overly crowded, and she likes to be involved with things that are a bit more unique. So she's out. Barbara hates the valuation because, obviously, she says she wishes they had come in asking for less money and had a bit more room to negotiate and play with, but since they don't, she's out. Gwyneth Paltrow, our guest shark, also gives us a very on-brand moment that made me laugh so much, and I really don't have an explanation for why, so I'm just gonna play it.
You know, for somebody who loves to cook, just the difference in the spices, you know, it's like a cacophony, like fireworks in your mouth. And when you're using beautiful ingredients like this, it's so easy to make food that's much, much healthier because the quality is so fantastic.
And after all that build-up, she ends up going out. She says she's worried by the fact she's never heard of them, even though she's super active in this space, which makes her feel like they're not going to be able to grow as fast as she'd like. And with that, as usual, all roads lead back to Chef Wonderful. Kevin's really unsure about it because he just doesn't trust that he'll be able to get the kind of return that he would want from an investment like this. Then they let us know they came here with a deal for him in mind. They talk about how they do a lot of different royalties when they're doing collaboration blends with chefs, artists, or influencers, and they think it's very effective. Their standard royalty for this is 20% off an $11.99 retail product, which equals $2.30 per unit sold. The royalty entices Kevin, so he offers them the $500,000 for a $2.30 royalty per order. But before he can even finish this offer, they let Kevin know that they had a different plan in mind. They are wanting him to do his own Mr. Wonderful set of spices and only give him a royalty off those jars.
That's a different deal.
Oh, no, I'm not going to do that deal. Are you kidding? I'll never get my money back.
You'll get it back.
No.
You're not banking on you?
That makes no sense.
Kevin then tries to offer them $500,000 for 10% equity and a 20% royalty on everything until he's paid back $1 million. Then the royalty goes away, which is new and different for Kevin because he loves those royalties in perpetuity. They once again try to get Kevin to do the deal where he only makes a royalty on his own collab jars, but they decide to sweeten it by saying they'll also give him a 10% affiliate cut on all the sales he drives to them and 5% equity. At this point, they're just trying to get another influencer, except one who gives them money for a teeny part of the business, which is just so funny to watch. Of course, though, Kevin would never agree to an offer like that, and they end up leaving the tank without a deal. Final thoughts, I'd love to try some someday to see if it does taste any better than the ones from the store, but really, all my thoughts are about how funny it was watching a shark be offered a pretty standard influencer deal, minus the money he'd pay in and a little bit of equity he's getting. Like, Kevin is out there on Cameo. Y'all should have just gotten a bank loan and paid for Chef Wonderful Cameo where he says how much he loves your spices. I kid you not. He's done Cameo videos for other random businesses. He may not do it anymore, but a few years back, if you paid him, I think it was like $1,000, he'd make you a shout out video for your business. It was hilarious. And that's all I could think of while they were trying to negotiate.
Gwyneth, would you have used this when you had Apple?
Well, I was like a milkmaid, so I could have like fed the whole neighborhood.
Dr. Berkeley and Pedro walked into the tank looking for $400,000 for 10% of their new solution for storing breast milk, freeze drying it. I wasn't really sure on what I should use as the product photo, so I went with this, which is what the pouches look like once they've been delivered to you. So how does it all work? First, they send you a complete shipping kit, which includes a pharma-grade insulated cooler, a prepaid return shipping label, and super detailed packing and shipping instructions. Then they use their process to turn it into a freeze-dried powder, package it all up, and send it back to you like this. Each pouch has custom labels telling you how much water to add to get it back to the consistency it once was. To use it, you put the entire contents of a pouch into a bottle, add the right amount of water, shake, and boom, you got a bottle. Unlike Parting Stones, she did not give everyone breast milk powder, but she did bring a little to do a demo on how to make a bottle with the powder, but she didn't pass it out to everybody, which already a step up.
So what you see in front of you is an example. So these are not product samples. We don't do that. But we want.
Let's get into some numbers. So they don't tell us exactly how much it costs to make, but as for the selling price, it's based on the volume you send them. They tell us it's around $1.60 per ounce for an average order value of $475, which equals around 200 to 220 ounces. They say this would equal about a month worth of food if you're using this to provide it to a daycare or caretaker. This picture is what I'm assuming the average order they were talking about is, to try and give you a better picture of the full costs. They started in 2021 with sales at $184,000, and year to date they're at $340,000 and plan to finish the year at $500,000. As for being profitable, they are break even, which honestly after this season, I'll take it. They say it's because they've been investing a lot in a new facility, which will help them make more money, and that in Q2 of next year, they should be at 20 to 25% net profit. I'm going to point out we just entered Q2 of next year, so I want an update. Lastly, for this section, they don't have any real outside investors, but the husband is a private equity investor and originally seeded the company with $40,000. And now total together, they've put in $60,000 and also got $120,000 from their parents. Time for the sharks. Mark thinks it's a great product, but sees it more as a luxury and not something that most mothers would be able to do. And for those reasons, he goes out. Kevin just doesn't see how him coming in would help them or him. Also this.
I don't like your valuation, by the way. I was going to beat you like a piece of veal on this thing, but I'm no point in doing it.
I was looking forward to that, but thank you.
And with that, Kevin's out. Barbara's on the same page as Mark of seeing this as a luxury and wishes the universal appeal was bigger, but since it's not, she's out. Because of all the affluent mom talk, our guest shark, Gwyneth Paltrow, asks what their total addressable market is. Their answer to that is that there are about 2 million moms who store their breast milk in the freezer, and that 60% of their total sales have come from middle and lower income households. And I, for one, want to know exactly how they know that. What data are they pulling from that shows them that? Part of me wonders if it's maybe from shipping addresses and based on income in those areas, or just what data do they collect to get this? If you have any insider guesses about this, please share it in the comments. Back on track. After their answer, Gwyneth says that she thinks this is something that mothers all over the world would eventually be so thrilled to have, but she's concerned about how high the valuation is. She says she'd like to see it get further along before committing to that kind of capital. So they ask if she'd be interested in doing a different sort of structure to follow along their progress without committing to equity. For example, a debt deal.
You're a regular hustler.
Yeah, no kidding, right? You are a PE.
Then Pedro asks Lori if she'd be interested in doing something together with Gwyneth. Lori agrees with the other sharks that the product is great, but the valuation is way too high. However, Gwyneth and Lori decide to take a sidebar, and while they're doing that, Mark gives out some great advice.
You guys might discuss what you're willing to do because it's probably not going to be cheap.
Gwyneth and Lori start taking too long for Mark's liking, apparently. And also, at one point during the silence, you can hear Kevin whisper to someone that he does think their ask was just way too heavy on cash, which the little whispers made me laugh so much. It also made it seem a lot longer.
It's only a 60-minute show, guys.
Hey, wait just a minute. This is a lot of money. We got to talk this through.
That's right.
Oh, this is nerve-wracking.
Lori and Gwyneth then offer $400,000 as a 3-year loan and 20% equity. But Pedro and Dr. Berkeley are worried that the loan is going to be a big drain on cash flow while they're trying to reinvest in the business.
You can make a counter.
Well, you were the one who offered the loan.
They then decide to counter with $400,000 on a convertible 3-year note, meaning if they don't like where the business is going after 3 years, they pay them back in full. But if they do like where the business is, they get 20%. And they end up making a deal. Final thoughts. This is once again a product I know nothing about. I do feel like the price seems high, but I feel like that could eventually come down if they could open facilities in different locations. But also, I don't know the relative price of like baby things in general. I'd really love to hear from any parents, especially ones who breastfeed, in the comments.